Billy loves new beginnings, maybe a little too much. Billy enthusiastically buys running shoes, 3 notebooks, a coding course, a meditation app, an expensive mechanical keyboard. 3 weeks later, the shoes are spotless. Notebook contains exactly 2 pages. The coding course says, progress, 4%. Meditation app sends notification, we miss you. Billy isn't lazy. He isn't incapable either. And surprisingly, he doesn't even lack motivation. Because every time he starts something new, he feels unstoppable. The problem always begins later. The next morning, Billy wakes up, looks at the board. Slowly closes the bedroom door again. For years, Billy believed successful people possessed something he didn't. More discipline, more willpower. Perhaps they were assembled in extremely organized Scandinavian laboratories. But psychology tells a different story. People who consistently finish what they start aren't fighting themselves every single day. They're playing a completely different game. Today, Billy is going to discover why some people finish almost everything they begin, while others collect unfinished versions of themselves. Chapter 1. The Excitement Trap. 5 minutes later, he owns 3 camera comparison spreadsheets, a bookmarked lens review, 12 YouTube tutorials, a shopping cart worth $2,800. Still no photographs. Billy thought motivation created progress. His brain disagreed. Whenever we discover something new, our brain releases dopamine. People often call dopamine the reward chemical. But that's only half the story. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure. It's about anticipation. It makes us excited about what could happen. Billy is still watching camera reviews. This is where many people get trapped. The brain often rewards planning almost as much as doing, sometimes even more. Because imagining success is comfortable. Building it isn't. Still, 0 photos. Researchers have found that novelty activates the brain's reward system. Everything feels exciting in the beginning. The possibilities seem endless. Every new hobby feels like it might finally become the one thing. Billy didn't have commitment issues. He had excellent taste in hobbies. Here's the problem. The beginning of any project is almost entirely imagination. You picture the finished result, the applause, the transformation, the version of yourself who finally has everything figured out. But imagination is effortless. Reality isn't. Day 1. Hundreds of photos. Everything is amazing. Day 3. Still exciting. Day 8. Learning exposure. Editing mistakes. Nothing looks like the YouTube tutorials. The pigeon somehow looks disappointed. And that's the moment. Most people misunderstand what's happening. They think, maybe this just isn't for me. But that's usually not true. What's disappearing isn't your potential. It's the novelty. Billy believes he's searching for the right hobby, but in reality, he's chasing a feeling. The feeling every beginning gives you. The feeling that this time, everything will be different. Unfortunately, that feeling always expires, and what comes next is where the real work begins. Chapter 2. The Invisible Wall. Inside are dozens of unfinished projects. The guitar, the camera, the sketchbook, a puzzle that's 94% complete, 1 sock, no explanation. Billy started noticing something strange. It didn't matter what the project was. Eventually, they all ended the same way. Day 2. Day 9, learning new chords. Day 21, playing the same transition for the 47th time. Learning to code. First website, amazing. 2 weeks later, one mysterious error message. Going to the gym. Week 1. Week 4. Progress is slower. Muscles aren't growing overnight anymore. Various goals, not the same skills, different outcomes. Yet Billy always left at almost exactly the same point. Every project ended right after progress stopped feeling obvious. Psychologists sometimes call this the plateau. It's the part nobody posts online because it looks remarkably boring. In the beginning, improvement is easy to notice. Every practice session feels productive. Every small success releases another burst of motivation. Then something changes. Your brain gets better, but your eyes stop seeing it. Progress becomes microscopic, almost invisible. The difference between yesterday and today is tiny, too tiny to notice. So Billy assumes nothing is happening. But this is actually where the deepest learning occurs. Your brain isn't failing. It's reorganizing, building stronger connections, turning effort into skill. The problem is, it doesn't feel impressive. Modern life makes this even harder. Everywhere Billy looks, someone appears to be succeeding faster, learning quicker, growing sooner, finishing earlier. Comparison creates an illusion. It makes ordinary progress feel like failure, even when you're improving exactly as fast as humans normally do. Notice what Billy didn't do. He didn't decide, I want to quit. He simply wanted to stop feeling frustrated. And those are very different things. Chapter 3. Your brain isn't avoiding work. One important project, deadline tomorrow. Billy was supposed to finish his project. Instead, he accidentally became an expert on bioluminescent squid. Billy suddenly decides to organize desktop icons, clean keyboard, water plant, sharpen pencils, check weather, fold one towel. Billy thought he had terrible self-control. Psychology offers another explanation. Researcher Timothy Pitchell has spent years studying procrastination. His conclusion surprised many people. Procrastination isn't mainly a time management problem, it's an emotion management problem. Think about what happens. The project creates discomfort, maybe uncertainty, maybe self-doubt, maybe fear of doing it badly. Your brain notices those emotions and immediately looks for something that feels better. From your brain's perspective, that was a success. The uncomfortable feeling disappeared. Mission accomplished. The problem is, your brain only solved today's emotion, not tomorrow's problem. This creates a loop: discomfort, avoidance, temporary relief, more discomfort, more avoidance. Over time, your brain starts learning something dangerous. Whenever things become emotionally difficult, leave. The guitar, the coding course, the camera, the puzzle, the sketchbook. One by one, he quietly walks away from each of them. Billy always believed he was abandoning projects, but something else was happening. He was abandoning the feeling those projects created. And once he understood that, everything began to look different. Chapter 4. The story you start believing. He takes a deep breath. 3 days later, the project sits untouched. The room goes silent. Did you hear that? Billy didn't describe what happened. He described who he believes he is. That might seem like a small difference. Psychologically, it's enormous. Our brains are constantly building stories about who we are, not from our intentions, from our evidence. Every finished project becomes evidence. Every abandoned one becomes evidence too. Over time, Billy stopped expecting himself to finish. And once that happened, something even more interesting began. Then, without realizing it, he only writes on the first page. He hesitates, leaves space, almost as if part of him already expects the notebook to end here. Psychologists call this self-perception. We don't only act because of who we are, we gradually become what we repeatedly observe ourselves doing. Quietly puts it back, not because he can't learn, because somewhere inside, he already expects the ending. That's the hidden cost of unfinished goals. Eventually, they stop being projects. They become identity. Chapter 5. The Exit Door. Billy thought having options made him flexible. It actually made quitting easier. Every project has a tiny emergency exit. Whenever things become uncomfortable, Billy quietly slips through it. Photography gets difficult, try guitar. Guitar gets repetitive, start coding. Coding feels confusing. Research investing. Investing gets overwhelming, maybe woodworking. Billy keeps opening another one, never entering far enough to reach the next room. Notice something. Billy never really loses motivation. He simply transfers it again and again and again. Billy's closet, the new hobby box. It has grown considerably. Every new beginning gives Billy another chance to feel like the person he wants to become without having to become that person yet. Reality. Still struggling to tie the belt correctly. Fantasy is comfortable. Reality asks something different. It asks for repetition, boredom, mistakes, practice when nothing exciting happens. Then Billy noticed something strange. He wasn't quitting because the projects were wrong. He was leaving at exactly the moment they stopped protecting him. The beginning lets you imagine who you could become. The middle asks you to prove it. And that's where Billy always walked away. Not because he wasn't capable, because uncertainty felt unbearable. He stops, looks back at the unfinished guitar, the unfinished camera project, the notebook, the puzzle. For the first time, he doesn't leave. He simply stands there. That moment doesn't look impressive. No dramatic music, no overnight transformation, just one person feeling uncomfortable and choosing not to run away. Sometimes that's where finishing actually begins. Chapter 6. Finishing is a skill. Billy walks past the closet. The new hobby box is sitting there. It almost seems to be calling his name. A shiny advertisement pops up on his phone. Billy's thumb slowly moves toward it. He stops, locks the phone, keeps walking. For the first time, Billy wasn't asking, "What do I feel like starting?" He asked something much more important. "What have I already promised myself?" He doesn't feel inspired. No cinematic music, no burst of motivation. Just Tuesday. That's something people rarely talk about. Most meaningful work happens on completely ordinary days. Not when motivation is high, not when life feels perfectly balanced. Just on a random Tuesday. Billy wasn't trying to master the guitar anymore. He was practicing something much bigger. Staying. Every time Billy stayed a little longer, his brain collected new evidence. Not evidence that he was talented, evidence that he was reliable. Instead of writing 20 ambitious goals, he writes only one. Finish lesson 5. He completes it. Checks the box. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief that your actions actually produce results. And unlike motivation, self-efficacy can't be bought. It can't be watched on YouTube. It has to be experienced, one completed promise at a time. He places the final piece. Nothing dramatic happens, no fireworks, no orchestra. He just quietly looks at it, then smiles. A surprisingly genuine smile. Funny enough, the reward wasn't finishing the puzzle. It was realizing he finally trusted himself to reach the end. Chapter 7. The Person Who Finishes. Billy washing one dish before it reaches the sink. Reading one chapter before bed. Practicing guitar for 15 minutes. Uploading one finished project. Not perfect. Finished. Billy's life didn't suddenly become extraordinary. He still skipped workouts sometimes. Still left coffee mugs in strange places. Still owned far too many notebooks. Progress isn't becoming a different person overnight. It's making slightly different choices, often enough that your identity begins to catch up. The new hobby box is still there, but something has changed. He starts putting things away, not throwing them out, putting them back where they belong, one by one, the camera, the sketchbook, the guitar, the puzzle box. Each item no longer feels like failure, just a chapter. Billy realized something important. Those unfinished projects weren't proof that he lacked discipline. They were reminders of every time discomfort convinced him to leave. Now, they remind him to stay. He sits down, turns to the very next blank page, starts drawing again, not from the beginning, from where he left off. That's another mistake people make. They think starting over is easier, but growth usually begins where you stopped last time. Billy sits at his desk. The room isn't perfect. There's still a mug, one sock, a slightly crooked stack of books. It still feels lived in, but something is different. The guitar is no longer gathering dust. The notebook has writing beyond page 3. The puzzle is complete. The camera contains photographs Billy actually took. Billy never became the perfectly disciplined person he imagined. He became someone much more interesting, someone who learned that finishing isn't about willpower, it's about what you do when the excitement disappears. Because almost everyone loves the beginning. Very few people learn to love the middle. And that's where lives quietly change, not through huge moments, but through small decisions made long after the feeling has faded.